start with your full name, please?
Marie Shapiro.
And where and when were you born?
I was born 1923, July 6th, in Bonnie Brae Maternity Hospital on Virgil Avenue in LA, Los Angeles.
So how old are you today?
And today I am 95.
You didn't know you were going to have to do math, did you?
I have to know that because they ask when you're in a hospital, they want to give you blood. How old are you? God, I've forgotten, you know. So I had to remember I wouldn't get blood.
And which branch of the armed service did you serve
Infantry.
with? But which branch?
Well, that was the infantry.
No, what branch, Dad?
With the Army, correct?
The Army.
Oh, the Army.
All right.
That's not a branch. That's a service. The branch of the Army is infantry.
All right.
Artillery, that thing.
I stand corrected. And do you remember which specific division or units you served with?
I was in Company M, 3rd Division, 3rd Battalion, I'm sorry, 112th Infantry Regiment, 28th Infantry Division, which is part of the Pennsylvania National Guard, or was then. It was called into federal service at Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania. And guys were always talking about it. And after the war I went there. There was no Indian Gap there at all.
And which theater of operations did you serve in?
European Theater of Operations, ETO.
And what was the highest rank that you attained?
Well, I was acting first sergeant at Company M.
And did you receive any medals?
I got 2 Bronze Stars, a regimental, what do they call it, regimental bar for this. Our regiment was parted out as 112th Infantry Barred. I have 3 of 5 Combat Stars. It's on my jacket, I forget what I got.
French medal. French medal.
French. French.
Oh yes, I got the medal that was conceived by Napoleon, 1802, the highest medal in France. That was the French Medal of Honor.
The Legion of Honor, all right.
And I remember when I got it, when we got it in a little valley there, and the French Foreign Legion band played. Da dee da 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 dee 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 da da da. There we go. The French Foreign Legion, you know, it's mostly made up of Germans who were running away. But that was and I also got a medal at the Legion Post in Hollywood. What was that? Presented by the President, for the President of France, by the Consul General of France. I forgot what medal that was.
All right.
Presidential? You got a presidential?
Oh, there we are. Now I can remember.
This is the French.
Oh, I was in the Colmar campaign. See that patch on above the sergeant stripes? I was in Colmar, and I got that, and I got the Fourragere for being in the drill team at UCLA. And on the other side, I got, oh, here. Let's see if I can see. This is a combat infantry badge with the wreath. When you finish your training, you know, when the Air Force got a bar, the artillery got something else, and we had nothing. So they decided, we'll give you the infantry badge, which is symbolic because that's the rifle that was used in the War of Independence. God, it was real long, you know. And so that, and if you were in combat 90 days, you got the wreath. And this is the Bronze Star with a pip, which means I got 2 of them. These are the European Theater of Operations. There are 5 possible. I got 3. I didn't get the first day. I got 2nd, 3rd, and 4th day. The first day, you also, if you landed the first day, you got an arrow on it. Hell, who wanted the arrow? The first day, most of the guys got killed. I landed the 3rd day, and it was late afternoon, And the general said, well, you guys take it easy. You're going to be in the reserve. We'll pick you up tomorrow. So I crawled up there and I found another buddy. You know, you carry a half a pup tent on you. That's what your pack's made of. So we buttoned it together. Somehow I got a can of tropical butter and I cut off a piece of cord and I put it in the can of butter, tropical butter. And we closed the tent flaps, and all through the night we were warm, and in the morning it was great, except our faces were yellow. I still remember that.
You landed in Normandy?
Yeah, third day.
+3?
I landed at Omaha Beach, red sector, easy subsector. When I went there, they had a woman ranger, and she pointed exactly where I went up the cliff. But at that time, there wasn't any cafe up above. Now there's a cafe there, yeah. Oh, this is the French Legion of Honor. They do a great job. Look at how beautiful that is.
That's very nice.
That's the French Legion of Honor. Hard to get. And this one is only significant because it's the only badge I got when I was in high school ROTC and college. And that's presented by the Reserve Officers Association as the Outstanding Non-Commissioned Officer. Lincoln High School. Well, this is the regimental Distinguished Regiment, 112th Infantry Regiment. Leitingheimer, the Bloody Bucket. I remember that morning when the Germans came through us with all those tanks, nothing we could do. And I remember one of the tank commanders stuck out his head and he said, you know, you're the Leitingheimer, the Bloody Bucket. It's your blood and our bucket. They rode on. I said, well, son of a gun, I'd shoot them except they'd come and kill me. So I didn't fire. And they put out a good medal. That's the French Legion of Honor. I'm very happy to get that one. Oh, this they don't show anymore. This is regimental device. They don't have regiments anymore in the U.S. Army. Isn't that a shame? That's the one in the British Army that goes all the way back to their ancestors. We wiped it out to the reorganization. Too bad.
Well, I'd like to rewind a little bit, and I'd like to talk about your childhood growing up.
Okay.
Here, I'll take this off you so you can be a little more comfortable.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let's see. I told you I was born in the Body Brain Maternity Hospital, and they wiped out that beginning of that street. What street was that? Virgil Avenue, yeah. There's still the Virgin Avenue, but not where I was born. And I grew up, my mother divorced my dad, so I was going tossing back and forth for a while. And finally my mother had custody. And then we wound up, she married Joseph Stevens, who incidentally has part Indian blood. He's my stepdad. And he told me when he died, I tried to be a father to you, I hope I did. Remember his last words. And I told him, yes, you did. But anyhow, we were on the boundary line of then Alhambra. We were just inside LA, near Valley Boulevard. And Fremont Avenue was on one side and Valley Boulevard. And that all disappeared when Highway 10 came through. So I grew up there, and I was always very, patriotic. I wanted to get into action. So I got into high school ROTC and UCLA ROTC, and I went into UCLA with about 72 other friends of mine, and then the Army called us to active duty. And I thought, well, I'll be with these guys, but one went into the Air Force, one into the artillery, and I was in the infantry. I remember the doctor examined my feet. You got the flattest feet in the world. You don't have to be in the infantry. But I want to be with my buddies. Okay, the flat feet don't bother you. You can watch. I watch. Anyhow, let's see. Okay, that was on Gervois, Chardwood Avenue, which no longer exists.
Let me ask you, did you have any jobs early on? Did you start working?
Yes, I worked for a short time in a fertilizer factory to one side of Valley Boulevard.
How old were you?
Oh, I was about 13 or 14. And that was too hard to work. So I quit that job.
Do you remember what you were getting paid?
50 cents an hour, or 50 cents a day. What about 50 cents a day? Yeah. Well, that was pretty good money. You know what 50 cents would buy in those days? When you saw a penny, everybody died for it. Today you wouldn't bother it. With that penny, you could go down and get a licorice whip, or you could get a what do you call it? Root. Go to the druggist and give it to him. He gave you a root, vanilla root. Chew on that, pretend you're a cowboy, spit it out. So I was growing up on Charnwood with my stepdad and my mother, and once every week or so I would go to my dad, except in the summer when his wife went to New York with the World's Fair. I stayed with him for the summer. And he couldn't cook. At one time he bought those fish, what do you call them, little fish? By the time we got through, it was mush. Whatever, I ate it.
Did you have siblings growing up?
Yes, I had two brothers, stepbrothers, but we're dear brothers. Half brothers, but as close to me as any brother can be. Phil and Clarence.
And your two sisters.
And two sisters. I forgot about them. But they died early. They died at the City of Hope. They died at the city. One had an enlarged heart, I think, and the other had a tumor on the brain. So I didn't know them very much, but my brothers I knew quite well. I still do. Phil calls me all the time to see I'm okay. And Clary, when we go on a cruise, Clary takes over.
Did your brothers serve in the war as well?
No, they did. Phil did more to kill the enemy than I ever did. He was a really bright guy. I didn't know really how bright he was. He was an engineer. He developed on his kitchen table floor, using a bunch of brown paper, a warhead that would go to different targets. I think it's still patented, so he can't even talk about it, told me about it. You take that one warhead, go to about 8 different targets, but it's still secret.
And he developed the Minuteman. It's in Washington, D.C. Well, your brother Clary was in the military. Yes. What about Clary?
Clarence, oh, he said the Battle of, he went to 3 different posts. He was good looking and he dressed immaculately, so he was an MP. And he went to up north there. He was at the Battle of. Anyway, I asked him one time. I said, "Clary, you're not the combat type. How can you be an MP?" I said, "How do you do if a guy is drunk?" He said, "Well, I just talk to him." Monterey, that's right, the Battle of Monterey, the Battle of Golden Gate. And then he got down Midway, I forgot. By the way, I was at Camp Roberts when, you know what was our training area? There's an area between Camp Roberts and the Hearst States. There must be miles of land between them, and that's where we trained. We'd be along the highway. Hot summer heat, we'd be practicing bayonet drills. God, it was terrible.
So, tell me about, you joined the ROTC when you were in high school?
Yeah.
Okay. And what made you decide to want to join?
I wanted a patriot. I knew we were going to get in the war because England was our anchor. I mean, if England went down, we were lost.
So you were pretty well informed as to what was going on?
Oh, absolutely. But most Americans were not. They were totally ignorant what was going on. But I always was interested in the news. So I followed it very carefully, and I knew what was happening. I said, if England goes down, we are sunk. So I said, we got to, and I remember when the night, on Monday morning, Sergeant Behrens, who was our regular Army sergeant, we had a regular Army sergeant and a officer that was in retirement, Major Dunsworth, who later became a full colonel. They called him back in. He left the Air Force when he was a young guy. I think he had a sweetheart, a French sweetheart, because he never got married again, never would talk about it. But he was our commanding officer. He also taught physics and chemistry. So I had him for physics class, and I had him for science, I think. And when the war came, they made him a full colonel. They made him in charge of the bombardier and navigation school. And I went to see him, and I was just a Buck sergeant. God, I can't go in there. You know, he's an officer. I stayed out. I didn't go see him, but I should have.
And did you eventually graduate high school?
I graduated high school, went to UCLA. And I joined the ROTC at UCLA. That was the advanced course. That put me in the third year.
What year did you graduate high school?
41 of summer. And then I went immediately to UCLA because you got half credit for college, what you got in high school. I had 4 years of ROTC. So I got 2 years of college credit for ROTC, which immediately put me in the advanced course, the third year at UCLA. So the third year ROTC when I entered UCLA, and I joined the drill team. That's where I got that at UCLA. We put on a show. We went to junior high schools, flipped our, you know the Butts manual? There's a guy named Butts, B-U-T-T-S, and he developed a exercise with a rifle. And you loosen your sling. In those days you had a leather sling, and you had real brass frogs. And then later on they needed I guess, no leather, but they put in cloth. But when we had those things, you could loosen it and you flipped it and you hear it snap. We had a big drill with it. I remember one time I was watching this drill when later on this Navy had put on a drill team. The officer was sitting there. I said, you know, I was on the drill team in school. He said, you were? Come over here. All the guys put their bayonets on and took a picture of me. Oh, I have that picture somewhere. Where is it?
So you just joined UCLA, you just enrolled there, and a few months later, Pearl Harbor gets attacked.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were that day?
Yes, I do. I was on my mother's terrace down the bottom, stripped to the waist. It was a very hot day, and I was putting the last stones in place for this terrace. It's all wiped out now, and I was and this guy comes along, and he said, "You mind if I take your picture?" Well, then we go up and I get clean. I remember because I would go up, and that day we used to go Sunday. It was the Philharmonic, New York Philharmonic, and who was the famous? Stokowski was the conductor. He never used a baton. I want to go up and listen to him because the NB Symphony air was beautiful. I said, I got to go up there and I got to clean. No, I want to send this picture back east. Nobody's going to believe that you're here sweating on December 25th, and it's a hot day. Back east, they're freezing. But he sent me a picture of it somewhere. I had a good buddy, Al Zalay.
December 7th.
Huh?
December 6th or 7th.
The 7th.
The 7th, not December 25. It was December 7th.
7th, that's right, it was.
Pearl Harbor.
It was a Sunday, but December 7th was a Sunday.
That's right. Kind of forget things, you know.
Do you remember how you found out
About what?
about Pearl Harbor being attacked?
Yes. I went up, I turned on the radio, and nobody interrupts Tchaikovsky. And all of a sudden, this famous announcer, we interrupt this program to announce Pearl Harbor has been bombed. No, he said, didn't say Pearl, he said, Ahoo-ha, has been bombed. Very famous announcer, and he said, Ahoo-ha instead of a wahoo. I remember that. You remember that?
Yes.
I think, but he, Ahoo-ha has been bombed. That's funny.
So what did you think when you heard that news?
I said, oh, you see, I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
You had a premonition.
Premonition, I knew it. I followed the news. No premonition at all. Matter of fact.
So how did you react?
Oh, I said, oh, I got to get into this. So the next day was a Monday. I went to UCLA, and the Sergeant Barons No, I was still in high school then. Sergeant Badge, the Army.
No, you were in
No,
college.
you were at UCLA. 41, you were at UCLA.
Okay, I went in there, and Sergeant Badge was busy taking our rifles. Those were good. They weren't Blood. They were Springfield.
Okay, he just skipped.
Huh?
Now you're back, he's talking about something he started back earlier, when he was in high school and he was keeping up with the news and he knew that if England lost. Now, and he started talking about when he went into class in high school and the sergeant that was in charge of the ROTC program was collecting all the Springfields to send to Dunkirk.
Sending them over back to
He
overseas.
does that every once in a while.
They not only sent those Springfields, we had some rifles from the Boer War stored below in case our units would expand. We could use those. Lee Enfields. Got a bunch of Lee Enfields in the basement. So we spent the next day putting Cosmoline in them and wrapping them in oil paper in these boxes. I think we put 2 or 3 in a box, wasn't it? And we sent them back overseas. Because the British, the British Expeditionary Force came back from France with no weapons. And boy, they were helpless. Yeah, we got those weapons over as fast as we could.
Yeah, yeah, ask him.
So the following days after Pearl Harbor was attacked,
Yeah,
you went back to UCLA,
I think I would, yeah.
okay? And
No, it couldn't have been, because I was packing rifles.
No, that was high school, Dad.
High school.
You went to you were at UCLA when you were the next stage.
When did I pack all our rifles?
High school, because of Dunkirk. Dunkirk happened.
Dunkirk, that was at Dunkirk.
That was high school. Now go to college when you heard about Pearl Harbor. And then he's asking you what you did after you heard about Pearl Harbor. What you did the next days.
Well, I wanted to get called to active duty.
okay.
And they kept leaving me there, and then they sent me to one fort and another fort, and I wanted to get overseas and fight. As I got over there, I wish I hadn't, but at that time I wanted to get over there and fight, yeah.
So
My
you
dad,
went to enlist in the Army.
yeah. My dad was a patriot. He enlisted in the Army, but he was 5 foot, and they wouldn't take him anywhere. So he wound up as a company clerk at some camp in the Midwest.
Why did you choose the Army?
Well, the Navy, they wouldn't let you dig a foxhole, so the hell with that. And the Air Force, I don't think I had color blindness. It wouldn't take me then.
Murray, you are already in the ROTC, so what he's trying to find out is the sequence of events that occurred after Pearl Harbor occurred, then what you did after that, and how you progressed to become a combat soldier. That's what he's looking for. He's looking for that linear progression of time. You keep splitting off and going everywhere. Try to stay with what,
All right,
what
let's
you
see.
did to get into combat. So I know you went back to UCLA because that's what you were still going to, and then how did you progress into being in actually?
Well, I volunteered to go over,
Right.
which meant you'll never get over there, because if you volunteer to get over there, so they sent me different camps. So
Yeah, all right, now progress.
Okay.
I forget which camps they sent me to.
When were you inducted into the Army?
I think it was a late senior when I was high school, wasn't it?
No, you were in ROTC in the Army.
Yeah,
during the fall of high school.
It's on that paperwork you have.
Did you was Camp Roberts the first camp that you went to
Yes.
training?
Camp Roberts was the first
So you
camp.
went to Camp Roberts, and then from Camp Roberts, did they send you to Officers Candidate School?
Yes.
And where did they send that? Where was that?
That was up at Fort Benning. And I washed out the last day.
Fort Benning was down in the south, right?
Yes.
Right, okay, so.
I washed out from Fort Benning. You know why?
Onto that, you might be able to progress, it's just kind of
I did a stupid thing. I came in, another guy and I were at a night problem. We were the last to come in. And he's the guy that met the Russians on the Elbe River.
Okay, stay on what happened.
Huh?
Stay on what happened at Fort Benning.
I want to talk about your basic training when you first got into the Army.
Yeah, that's.
So if you could talk to me a little bit about where you went for training and your
Well, the
experience
first was
there.
Camp Roberts, which is the mid part of California. And the reason they did it at Camp Roberts because had this huge area to train in. Hot as hell in the summer. And I remember we were doing bayonet drill. I was just about to collapse. I got up and I looked at my palms of my hands, little red dots. I went to the Sergeant, I got red dots on my hands. I think I have a fever. Oh God, that means the whole area is quarantined. That whole, they have to go everywhere with a red flag, and they can't eat with anybody else because of me. I wound up at the division hospital. There was a sergeant that waited on me. It was wonderful. So for 8 days I was in this hospital in Camp Roberts. And then on the 9th day, I better get out of here because they're putting me in the next cycle. I'll start the whole blooming thing over again.
What were you sick with?
I had this light case, roseola. I had the red measles and the German measles. Now I had the third one. I didn't know it was a third one. I had roseola, which is very light. And you have a slight fever, and that's it. Okay.
So when were you assigned to the heavy machine gun squad?
God, I remember being I was a best rifleman there was in the Army. And I wound up, you're going to have this heavy machine. But I'm a rifleman. Never met, so I come in there, look up at me and say, hey, Sarge, you want to know how to stay alive? Boy, their morale was really great. Want to know how to stay alive. So I said, what you got in mind? Well, they gave me some nice ideas if you want to hear about them.
So were you still in training when you were assigned to the machine gun squad?
Yes.
No,
No?
Murray. No, he went to Fort Benning Officers Candidate School, and he was going to tell you about, he just about finished the Officers Candidate School, and then him and his group there, his group were coming back from a night maneuver drill, and then so you tell him about after you came back from the night maneuver drill at Fort Benning and how you got kicked out of Officers Candidate School.
Yeah, that's.
The reason for it. Try not to go off on too many tangents.
Now, who's the other guy and I that came in last on the night problem? Schuler. He's the guy that met the Russians on the Elbe River. You know, they put you alphabetically. So there's Shapiro, Schuler, and the guy with a T that was Ted Tarbell. Tarbell was a wonderful guy. I remember him standing up. He saved us from having a revolution.
What happened at Fort Benning? How did that happen?
Well, let's see what happened.
Came back from night maneuvers.
Yeah. And I was hungry. And Shirley said, I'm tired. He's going to go sleep. Well, I got to go eat. So I walk in there, and they had a black crew that did all the dirty work for us. And the sergeant said, wait just a minute, sir. I'll set you a table. I was starving, and he's going to set me a table? That means I got a pot of this and that, and I have to scoop it out. And they got to give me a tray because I'm an officer candidate. Look, don't bother. I'll just sit down and eat with you. So I'm sitting facing the door, eating with these. They look at me kind of funny. And then walks Major Tarbett? No, anyhow, he's a deep Southerner from Louisiana. And he hates whites and Jews and everybody else.
He hates blacks and Jews. Black, not white. He doesn't hate whites.
No. Blacks and Jews, Mexicans,
Right.
anybody.
Anybody who's not white, essentially.
Anyhow, I come in there, and I'm facing him. He says, I lost my commission right then and there. That's why I lost it.
But you lost it because you sat at a table with black troops.
The black troops.
He gives me a little piece of paper which says, does not at the present time possess all the necessary qualities for an officer and gentleman. I memorized that blooming. And that was it.
Okay, so then you got sent to England as a private, right?
Oh, I went over on the sister ship of the Queen Mary, the Mauritania. You want to see what it looks like? There's a museum on the bottom of the Queen Mary. The Mauritania is a little bit less. I think going overseas, the Queen Mary carried 15,500 troops. Mauritania, 10,500 troops. And that was a lot of troops. But not enough toilet facilities. So on the deck, they had these Andy Gumps, several of them. So if you had to go, you go on the deck.
You were pretty crowded on there, huh?
Oh, crowded. We couldn't wait to get up because in the morning, you couldn't eat down there. It was stuffy. And they brought you, we were in a British ship. The food, I don't know how the enlisted man stands it. The difference between an enlisted man and a sergeant and an officer is so great on a British ship. But in America, I remember you go and take a shower. This is not exaggerating. For the enlisted man, you had one little hole on that shower, it was cold water. For a non-com, you had several holes, still cold water. For a first three grader, you had warm water. That's the way they segregated it. We went in and we went to the best shower right away.
Do you remember what year you sailed overseas?
Gee, what year did I sail? You remember what year I sailed?
1944. I thought it was 44.
44.
Early 44. And you arrived in England.
Yes.
So what did you do? What did you?
Well, they immediately sent us on to London. They put us in a blacked out train. Couldn't look out, and we peered through there because I was anxious. God, the whole area was just bombed to smithereens, London.
Was London still getting bombed while you were there?
Yes. That's why they wanted to get us out of there fast. So they took us up where the bombs were not falling, just below Scotland and Wales. And I met a Welsh girl there, and that was a wonderful date. And they told us, you can have 6 more weeks. And I had a date with that girl. You know, there's a walled city up there near the border. And there's a big clock on top of the wall. You walk along the wall. I said, I'll meet you by the clock next Saturday. I had a pass. Well, I never made it because I got orders to go overseas. You can stay for 6 weeks, but you have to join the paratroops. Well, maybe that's not so bad. Then they showed me a movie to convince me, no way was I going to be dropped by a plane. Send me over. So that's how I got overseas. I'll tell you, that movie was very realistic. I still remember it.
Okay, tell me when you landed overseas, they didn't have troop carriers. What did you land in?
Oh, we landed on the 3rd day at Omaha Beach, red sected, easy subsector. So if you look at the beach, the British were gold in Juneau, and the Americans were Omaha and what's the other one? Utah. The British had 3 beaches because at that time they had more men than we did. Later on it was reversed. So we landed in Omaha and Utah. I landed in Omaha. And that was divided into 3, red, white, and blue. I landed at red. That was subdivided further into easy, A, B, C, D, and I landed at easy.
This was June 9th of 44.
Years later, we went there, and there was a woman ranger. I'll tell you exactly where you landed. She had this map. Well, let's see here. She had it exactly subdivided where we landed.
Okay, so you show up and you're a private, and you report for to be assigned, and then how does that go?
Well, I was a great rifleman. They said, you're going to command a machine gun section. But I'm a rifleman. You have this gun. So I go there, and there's a gun crew, having machine guns.
Well, hold on. There was more to the conversation than that because when you showed up, you were a private and you were kind of angry at the Army, remember? And he said, well, I'm going to make you a sergeant and you're in charge of a machine gun section. And you told him, well, I'm not trained in machine guns and I'm not a sergeant, I'm a private. And he said, you don't really get a choice. You've got too much training to be a private and you need to lead the machine gun section.
And that made me a staff sergeant, by the way.
So that's how it went.
Because there's 2 sections of a heavy machine gun section, 2 guns. And each gun crew was commanded by a buck sergeant, so I got staff sergeant ratings right away. I skipped the other side. That's the 1 rocker and 3 up above.
And was this after you landed in France, or was this
This
before?
was after he landed in France. It was the 2nd day. So he spent the night on that hill with the butter, and he reported for assignment. Got it. And I think it was a captain gave him looked at his personal book, personal record book, kind of like whatever you call it, and he saw his training, and he saw that he'd been almost completed officer's candidate school, and he says, "You're not a private, you're a section sergeant, and you got 2 heavy machine guns." And he said, "That's ridiculous. I'm not trained as an infantryman."
And I went to one of those gun crews, and they...
Now tell them what they told you to do. So you showed up, and these guys had already been pretty much obliterated. So
They had a
they were
picture.
they'd already learned how not to get fired back upon. So, because when you fire the machine gun, what happened?
Well, the morale was so low.
So
They had a picture of the other guy. He looked something like me. I mean, the physique. So, hey, Sarge, you want to know how to stay alive? That's the first thing they asked me. The morale was pretty low. What do you got in mind? Well, you're a heavy machine gun sergeant, yes? You know, when you fire that gun, the third round is a tracer. And you see that, yes, you see where it's going. And they see where it's coming from. You don't want that. Well, what do you want? Well, take out those tracers and put in your regular rifle bullet. Same thing. Well, what if I want to show you a target? Well, you just pick out one bullet, watch my tracer, and fire it, and we'll watch. So that's how I pointed out targets.
So
Anyhow.
he was unique also because normally a sergeant carries a 1911 Colt pistol or a Thompson submachine gun because he's not normally firing on anything. Or he was trained as a rifleman, so he took the M1 Garand. He actually turned and said, I don't want that pistol for that Thompson.
Yeah.
It's not good for me."
Yeah, he said, I have this.
He had his rifle, same 30 caliber bullets. He could load his rifle with the tracers and he would fire.
Well, I could load that thing fast.
And they could watch the thing and then they could aim it.
I was so good at that.
Without drawing the line back to themselves.
You know, you stick it down, you put you with a helier thing. I can't today, it would hurt. And I had that thing loaded.
And you learn that because those guys have already lost a lot.
Their experience.
Well, yeah, only by 3
But we never did fire and movement. You ever hear that theory? Fire and movement? Remember, Alex Baldwin was a military writer, expert for the New York Times, syndicated all the world. He told us about fire and movement. We never did that. See, the theory is this. First, the long-range artillery, and then the short-range artillery, and then the heavy mortars and the light mortars. Everybody's got their head down, and then you're walking and you're firing to keep their heads down. Well, hell, who's going to fire if you don't know you're going to get more ammo? So that's where it ended. So fire movement never worked. But they were bragging about it. It never worked.
When he landed at Normandy, they didn't have troop carriers, they ran out. So he landed in a tank carrier, which is heavier. But if you're troops, you bounce around a lot. So everybody was throwing up in there.
Man, what did he say?
He said when you landed, they didn't have enough personnel carriers, so you landed in a tank carrier.
Yeah.
So everybody got seasick.
Well, I'm glad because the personnel carriers were terrible. You walk down a ladder. Well, by the time you got the better, you're dead. It's lucky if the tank, you drop it down and you get out of there as fast as you can.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. Do you remember landing on Omaha Beach? Do you
Oh,
remember
yes.
what you saw? I mean, you were only 3 days after the invasion.
Well, there were some bodies floating around. I remember that. I remember the first dead American I saw. Those were not. He was sitting against a wall, the earth wall, and he was sitting on a pool of blood that was frozen solid. I'd never get that thing out of my mind. Never seeing him.
So there was still a lot of debris and whatnot.
Well, the third day they'd wiped most of it up. There were very few bodies by then.
But were there ships in the channel still? And
No, by the third day things were pretty wiped. Well, everybody had moved inland. You know, the fighting was going on way inland by the third day. And so they said, well, you're going to be reserved. Get some rest. So I crawled up on this little hill. I found another guy that had the other half of the tent, and we made us a little pup tent. And we lit this piece of lard. We slept all night there. It was wonderful. Kept warm. One man had my feet out, and about 2 in the morning, somebody came by and kicked my feet. Hey, get up, Eisenhower needs people down there to unload ammunition. I said, well, the hell with Eisenhower, I'm going to stay here. So they were to come back, so I didn't help Ike, I'm sorry.
so you guys were brought in as replacements.
Yeah.
Do you know which division you guys were supporting?
Yes, we were with the 112th Infantry Regiment of the 28th Infantry Division, Pennsylvania National Guard. And I was Company M, which is heavy machine guns. Well, it's heavy weapons. You got 2 platoons, 2 squads of heavy machine guns and 2 squads of heavy mortars. And I wish I were in the mortars because you're way back. See, the way the thing is, if you're you got your machine guns right along with your men. You used to have them overhead. It's a terrible mistake because nobody would fire because nobody wanted to fire over the heads of men. I would get a beautiful spot at Colmar, for instance, I could see all the way around. I started to set up and fire my guns. So I didn't stop firing. Why? The men don't like bullets going over their heads. Boom. So after that I learned, never get up above the men. Get down your gun on the same level they are.
So do you remember which unit you guys met up with when they told you about the tracers, the strategy with replacing the tracers with normal rounds?
Well, let's see. We were in the 3rd Battalion of the 112th Infantry Regiment of the Company M. I was with the 1st Section.
But you'd met up with another unit, another infantry division, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember which unit that was?
I think it was the 75th. That's the one I trained with in the States.
Okay.
And that was between us and the British East Army.
Okay.
They had the position to the ocean, the sea. And when they didn't have a single officer or man that had any combat experience, including the general. And when the German attacked, the Germans knew that, and they went through there, and the whole thing collapsed. And I remember hearing that show, I'm going to be known as the only general in the U.S. Army that lost his whole division on the first day. And that was it. But we moved over and to cover their spot, which meant we were still thin too much.
He's talking about after the Ardennes. He's talking about the Ardennes during that led up to the Battle of Bulge. So that's where he was there. So yeah, he jumped ahead.
So
do you remember? Ask him did you fight through the hedgerows?
Yes, but we didn't have to fight through the hedgerows. Some guy from the farms had developed on a tank a scoop, and he just scooped those hedgerows, and we got in there. But they were taking men out with him before he figured it out. This guy was a farmer, on a farm, and he developed you got one of those forklifts, and he just scooped those things out, and we went right through those hedgerows.
So did you have to fight your way through France?
No, we didn't. We skirted it. We went through Luxembourg and into Germany, a little bit of France, not much.
What about Belgium?
Belgium, yes, we had to fight through Belgium. And Luxembourg, not France.
And do you remember your first days in combat?
Well, you mean when we landed? Let me think. I try to forget those things. The bad things you forget, good things you remember. First day of combat. I remember when I went to my gun squad. Hey, Sarge, you want to know how to stay alive? And I tell you about that.
Tell me about the tracers.
Yeah.
What about when you had the string on the machine guns?
Oh yeah, we set up our machine guns, see, and once you fire those, you're dead because every heavy mortars, light mortars, everything comes in on that gun. So we got ordered to fire on the gun, so they had a string, they put it on the trigger guard, they put a stake, and they went down the thing, and then they pulled that thing, and boom! Within seconds, that whole gun disappeared, along with the earth behind it, and buried a couple of guys. We dug them out, and I said, "Sir, we need another gun." "What happened, Sergeant?" "Well, they just wiped it out." "Did you lose any men?" "No." "What happened?" "Well, we were lucky, sir." "I don't understand that." "Well, we were just lucky." We're going to tell them what we did. Hell.
So you guys set that sort of decoy up to draw fire. You knew that the machine gun would be
Well, it wasn't a
primary target.
decoy. If anybody that fired an automatic weapon, we trained our men. And also we trained on road junctions. You didn't have a target, I remember when the first thing we got to the front was to run through those road junctions as fast as you could. We got on the beaches, we crawled up this cliff, and then we came to this road junction. Put our rifles at high point, we ran across as fast as we could because the enemy didn't know there was anybody there, but they would bomb them indiscriminately. Coming back, I remember one time I forgot about that, and the whole saturation was coming in. I went to the side of the road, and I slipped down to the stream that was down below. I forgot what that was.
Can you stop for a second?
So you could tell me how you made your way from France to Belgium.
Well, let's see. I really didn't do much in France. Luxembourg.
I understood you had to walk over the Alps.
No, not that point. No, later on, not the Alps. Walked over a big high mountain, but that was not the. Yeah, I forgot where that was. I remember.
Of 44, you went through Paris. You helped liberate Paris.
Yeah, but I remember one thing. We were crossing these high mountains. I don't think they were the Alps, the lower part of the Alps, the Vosges, V-O-S-G-S, crossing the Vosges Mountains. And I had a group of French colonials with me, black troops. Boy, are they dirty fighters. I won't tell you what they did because they wouldn't even print it in a military journal. But they were dirty fighters. I was glad they were on our side. And I was leading them, plus my own group, the heavy machine gunners. And we finally got to the coast, and we had very good elevation. First time I ever had a field of fire of three different ways. And I'm standing next to this gunner, one of my gunners, talking to him. I lean back, and a swoosh between us, and then a room. Somebody was firing an artillery, long-range artillery shell right between us. We're talking to each other. I didn't know it then, but we had developed the long tom. You know what the long tom was? It was a barrel. Barrel was about the length of this room, and I would fire 22 miles and carry out a projectile the weight of a jeep. Came over the hill and went right there. I said, "My God, there must be a spotter somewhere." There's an officer there with a corporal with a backpack. Went over and grabbed it. I said, "Sir, raise it. You're going to knock us off that cliff." All right, get excited, son. Already given the order. I remember that. Oh.
Okay, and can we talk about the Battle of the Ardennes?
Well, the Ardennes is a valley in the Malmed section of Belgium. Pretty kind. I think I have a picture of it somewhere. And we were fighting in the Ardennes forest, which is part of the valley of the Ardennes, of the Malmedy, province in Belgium. And it's pretty heavily more forested. Nevertheless, Hitler came through there in spite of the forest. Those tanks just plowed through the trees. And nobody expected it. Well, they went through the same spot in the World War I. They should have known their history. And they came through that same forest.
And what were some of the things you experienced during that battle?
Oh, God, lots of things. One thing, I don't know whether they did it deliberately. I think they put the forest on fire. We had to get out of there. We were going to be burned. I had my rifle at high port, and I was running as fast as I could to get out. And I see this German tanker who was killed, and he was leaning over his tank. And out of that tank fell these two great souvenirs, which I used in combat. One was an aluminum fork and spoon, and the other one was this complete rifle cleaning kit in one package. And I used that too, all through the war. And then I brought it home as a souvenir. The guy's name's on the spoon.
What was the weather like during
Terrible.
Tell me about it.
Well, it's the coldest I've ever been in my life. Worst winter in 50 years, somebody told me.
Is this the first time you've ever seen snow?
The first time I ever snow fall on me. I've seen it. We used to go up to Big Bear or something, play in the snow. The first time it was ever falling on snow. At first it looks so pretty, but then it gets wet and you don't want it anymore. It's terrible. First time I was ever in a snowfall. That's right. You're gonna have to prompt me now.
Okay, it's all right.
I can't remember some of these.
All right. So we're talking about the Battle of the Ardennes. Okay. It says here that you had 18 narrow escapes with death during that period in the Herkian Forest.
8 was the first day I was up.
Say that again.
The first day I went up to join that heavy machine gun group, we never got there. Sergeant McGinnis and I were sent up there as replacements to the heavy machine gun. It was already on the line. Well, we never made it up there, and Sergeant McGinnis, of course, was killed. So we got about halfway up that road to get to our guns, which I had never seen. The reserve battalion got up there, and they found that the gunner had been shot through the eye. It's a good thing I didn't get there. Anyhow, we're on there, and somebody threw a potato masher at us, you know, German hand grenade. Well, those things are awkward. You got time to get out if you can see it. I yelled grenade, and I died down. And well, the burst went over me, but the guy who followed me couldn't get the ground fast enough. He got killed by it. And another corporal, the instrument corporal, got it through his head. We were digging we were digging a foxhole. I was so damn tired I didn't dig a foxhole. Oyster corporal was digging one. This guy Pulichowski was digging one. We were in a triangle. And I found an empty slit trench. I just sat down in the slit trench. You know what a slit trench is? Okay, I had my back against the slit trench when this light mortar comes in right between us. And normally you can't hear a mortar because they come in and boom. But my ear was so trained I could tell machine gun fire, rifle fire. The rifle fire sounds like a whip. Artillery sounds like an express train. But I was in this trench, I heard this mortar coming, I slipped down and I was below the level of the ground. And right between the three of us, the sergeant had got down, instrument corporal had got down, but not enough to get he got shrapnel in his head, and he was bleeding, so he went what we call a walking wounded. He walked down to the aid station. I was talking to Pulichowski, and I didn't talk to him, he was praying. He was Catholic, and he was having his beads on it. Mother Mary, it's my first day in battle, please help me, preserve me. It's really fascinated to him, trying to win this battle out. And I'm still down on that slit trench, and finally the first sergeant comes up. What happened? I said, well, we're in the middle of this barrage, and the corporal got hit, and he walked out of the aid. What about this guy? Well, I don't know. We'll go up and see what's wrong with him. We got up there, his face was black, purple, and I think he's dead, Sergeant. Well, give me his personal effects, I'll take to the captain. See, the captain has the job of writing home to everybody that's killed in his company. So you'd send him the personal effects, so he knows who to write to. Well, the problem with Pulichowski was that we couldn't move him. I couldn't get his personal effects. Get his dog tags too. Get one dog tag, not both. So come on, I'll help you. So we tried to move him, and he got one shoulder. We pulled him. Finally, his head went back. You know what killed him? A piece of shrapnel would come back in the middle of that prayer, choked him to death. That's why his face was all black. I never prayed after that. Hell, who's going to pray and have a piece of shrapnel get out and choke your prayer? Boom. I wrote that to the Reader's Digest. They wouldn't even touch it. I didn't think they would, but I thought they ought to know. The crap they were printing, you know. Oh, I prayed in combat, all these mushy things that never happened. Yeah.
So what were some of the other close calls that you had?
The first day I went up, I had 8 of them. Let's see, the first was a grenade. Oh, a sniper was hit by a rifle. So I tried to find the sniper. He knocked a piece off my gun stock. After that, I just forgot the sniper and tried to get out of there. There was another one. I had 8 narrow escapes walking up the first day. I can't think of all of them. I used to remember all of them. Probably in my memoir.
How about when the tank drove over or the Jeep drove over the mine, shoe mine or whatever it was?
Oh, yeah, that was a Betsy.
Yeah.
Well, that's I guess if we were going around, that was the whole outfit was moving from one spot to the other. The route march on the road. You have a freeze in place. Everybody stopped. I was abreast of these two engineers that were defusing the shoulders. And one of them happened to hit the blades of an S-mine. That's about, I forget the German word for it, long word, you know, Schütz or whatever it was. And S-mine is like this. It's, imagine two cans, Campbell soup can and a bigger can. The in can is full of dynamite, and the outer can, there's 250 steel balls between them. And then they're buried, and there's a little charge underneath, and three blades, looks like grass, come up. If you break any one, it cuts off the bottom can, goes 4 feet in the air, you got steel ball bearings flying everywhere. And one hit me right in here. It's like being in a church bell. I couldn't hear what was going on. My head was quivering. I couldn't hear anything. Those balls hit, blew out the radiator of the Jeep following me, knocked 3 of the tires of that Jeep and 2 of the tires of the front Jeep. Hit the guy, driver in the back Jeep in the main artery. He was bleeding. Hit the other guy in the right calf. And I didn't have a scratch, but I sure had a heavy sound. And I turned to one of my Sergeant Poland. Hey, Sarge, you got a bullet in your head. I do. Pull off the hat. Sure enough, there's a bullet. I pull off the inner liner, and I had a wool knit cap in those days, and there was a groove in that wool knit cap. Well, that was close. Very close.
How many men were in that Jeep with you?
Well, I wasn't in the Jeep.
Oh, you were next to it.
The Jeep usually carries a driver and a guy in it. 2 to 4. Usually 2 to 3.
You want to hold that helmet up? Show me where you got hit.
Yeah. We went in here and then hit this. And came back here. Just here.
You got a good helmet because it punched a hole in the steel part. You can't put liner.
Well, I couldn't save that because I use everything to eat with you, to brush your teeth, clean your feet, your socks. So I had to turn it in. But I say this is if you're a non-com, and if you're an officer, you got one coming vertical. First thing we did was put mud on it, because the Germans were looking for that aiming stakes. So the hell with them. But that was it.
So that was pretty close.
Oh, very close.
What about the time when you were running from the Nazis, you hit the bushes and they stepped in your hand?
Well, that was when I was coming back, yeah. That was quite some time afterwards. I was trying to get back to my front, and I knew the headquarters were near a river. And finally I came to this river, and I thought there's a lot of wires striking up to a gun position. I figured that's our artillery, so I crawled all the way up, and I hear him speaking German. So I quietly backed down there. And I got to this river bank, walking along there, and all of a sudden saturation comes in, and I dive into that bank, got all wet, got out on the other side, and I finally got down to regimental headquarters. Nobody's there but the sergeant in charge of communications. I went back to that house later on. Remember, Shirley? And that's where we had our communications. So I said, can I come in and look? Yeah. Didn't look anything like it when we were there.
So what happened? Your hand got stepped on?
Well, let's see. I was coming back, and the Germans were trying to catch me, I guess. Well, they were coming up, and I finally got between 2 German ranks, and one of them was a heavy machine gunner. So I got to get out of here because the first thing we end for is a heavy machine gun. They're going to end for ours. So I had my hand out, and the Germans were going to the front rank. Some guy stepped on me. Luckily, my hand went down because they have spiked boots, you know. And, oh, luckily for me, it went way clear down. I wait there until late afternoon. The more you know, you learn creeping and crawling in the Army. I did a perfect job of creeping and crawling out of there until I got that forest on the side. I remember that.
So you were undetected. They didn't know you were there.
No, if they had to kill me.
What about when you had dived through the hedge?
Oh, that was terrible. I forgot where that was, but I had to get through a hedgerow.
Wasn't that at the
Or
Yeah.
was that later?
I think it was in the Bulge.
Was it in the Ardennes?
Yeah. And the only way I could get through was get through this hedge road. Because the whole area was squared with hedges. Because the farmers used those to keep their cows in or whatever it was. And how to get through it, we came in with later on, farm boys would lift it up with a forklift. I didn't have a forklift, so I had to get through there. So I put on my steel helmet, and I dived in there and worked my way through, and I couldn't get my rifle through. It was all, and I pulled and tugged, well, I left the rifle, and so I came out unarmed, but God, it was terrible.
When you got to the other side, there was the Ore River. What did you do with the Ore River?
River?
The Ore River. Ore.
That's right. Ore River is near the town of Ardennes, that's right. And I got there, and I had to get across, well, it's not a river, it was a little stream, but from here to the Chimney. But the beach out of it was very swift. Well, I could make that, so I left my heavy stuff on the side, my rifle, my ammo, hand grenades, that I just wanted to get out. Kept my boots, well, that was smart. And I finally got to where I'm at the V channel, and a Star Wars goes up. You know, they have these flares. They light up the whole sky there. What are they? You see everything. So you freeze, because if you're moving, they catch you. So I learned enough to freeze, and when I went down, I went to try to get to the other side. I made it, got my feet wet. I almost got pulled down because the hurt was swift. But I made it to the other side, and I got up there, and I'm wet. I don't have a helmet. I don't have weapons. I have a beard of, you see that with a beard. I have a big beard. And I knock on I kept in the hill all day because Germans were running patrol.
This is after the battle, this is during the Battle of Bulge when your lines were overrun, right? You were behind enemy lines?
Yeah. I tried to get back to, another guy and I were trying to get back to our lines. And I lost him somewhere, so I was by myself. And I finally decided I got to get some, I know, I went up all day long and I cased this little village. No movement. So I thought, well, maybe the people have fled. Maybe I get some food in there. So I come down to there's only one street in the village. And I get halfway through and a little old lady comes on. She says, Infantry? Oui. I come and see inside. So I come in, and she has 4 daughters there. And they're looking at me kind of funny, and of course, I look like a mess. You couldn't tell what army I was with. And she gave me some ersatz bread and some ersatz coffee. She said, see, Hitler decreed that all flour had to be 40% cellulose, wood sawdust. But it tasted like pumpernickel to me. Oh, it was so good. And also, all coffee had to be 40%, whatever they use for substitute for beans. Anyhow, ersatz coffee and ersatz bread was good. And she gave me I forgot what was on the bread. I think it was margarine, uncolored margarine, white. But I was just chopping away at it. And she was drying my shoes and my socks. I had 2 pairs of socks on. And while I was doing this, I was looking at her daughters, and I said, I'm an American soldier. She said, yeah, I know. I said, well, why? She said, I have socks filled in the infantry too. I have socks in the Wehrmacht infantry, not my infantry. I said, well, don't you know I'm an American soldier? I know. I said, why are you feeding me? I got 5 sons in the infantry too. She didn't differentiate between German. I'll never forget that woman. I hope she made it, and I hope her sons made it. After that, I had a hard time shooting at German boys. I thought that poor woman. With no sons.
She took you in, fed you, cleaned you up.
Huh?
She took you in,
She fed me.
fed you, cleaned you up.
And then we hear German tanks coming down. The German tanks were very distinctive from the American tanks. First of all, they were heavier, and they had diesel engines. They were at the back. You're a German tank. And I got to get out of here because they find me here, they're going to kill the whole family. Hitler had ordered anybody who befriends an American, They killed the whole family, so I had to get out of there fast.
And you're still unarmed at this point.
Oh yeah. And so she made me put the sandwiches in my I had a raincoat for somebody in pocket, and we dashed out of there as fast as I could. And then I meet I come out of there and I got my coat. I was in the back of I guess a little farm. I got my gray coat caught on this chicken wire. And you talk about guards, you talk about goose. They are the best watchdogs. All of a sudden these geese come, they're honking like, man, the whole town comes back to see me. And I tried to stand up and I'm bluffing my way. I'm an American, what do you want? They said, well, we'll show you how to get back to, the terror shows both ways. But the problem was, the short ones were here. The long ones were way far away. I figured that's ours. I had to get back to my artillery from there to get back. And I said, well, I'm an American, I got to get back. Well, we have a woman there that she knows English very well. She'll get you back then. She must have shacked up from a guy from Brooklyn because they're English, half Brooklynese, half Belgian. It's the funniest thing. If I weren't in such a serious state, I'd laugh. And she took me to our outpost. And then I had some real problems because I never followed sports. And I said, well, somebody jumped out with a Tommy gun and said, halt. Look, I'm an American, yeah? See, the Germans they looked through the army and they found some Germans who had lived in America and spoke pretty good German, English. And they dressed them up in American uniforms and they were wreaking havoc behind our lines, changing signals. And they thought I was one of those guys. They said, well, who won the World Series? I don't know. I don't pay for sport. You don't know anything about sport? No, I'm not. Yeah? Well, we're going to take you to Colonel Nelson. If he doesn't shoot you, we're going to take you out and shoot you. Colonel Nelson was the regimental commander. And he says, well, I don't know him, but he looks like an American. I think we'll take him. So he gave me a blanket and put me in front of the nice warm fire. He, the colonel gets the best house. So he had this house in Death Lane. The road went down. I'm in front of the chimney. I should have stayed there. Had this warm blanket, everything. Didn't have any rifle, but I was nice and comfy. And the only time, my whole life, I'm under an air bombardment. Some German plane drops a bomb right behind that chimney. Scared the daylights out of me. I've never been under an air bombardment. The whole place shook like an earthquake. I got to get out of here. I pulled up the blanket, so I got to join my outfit, and I went back the road and found some guys. But luckily, I still had my compass. The guy named Shapiro saved my life at that point. Ever tell you about that story?
Let me ask you, how long were you separated? How long were you behind enemy lines? How long did it take for you to get back?
8 days.
8 days.
8 days. So what were you doing over those eight days?
Trying to find my way back.
But did you have help from that lady, or you were by yourself?
Well, she showed me how to get out.
Okay, but then you made the way by yourself.
Yeah. Then I come to this.
You used your compass.
I used my compass, but I didn't use it yet. I came to this part in the road, and they wanted someone to come out and guard the road. The road dipped down, and they were afraid tanks would come out. Well, tanks did come out. One tank, anyhow, big German Tiger. And up on the right was a little, must have been a silo or something. It was a 2-3-story tower. And in that tower was Robert Shapiro, no relation to me, comes from upper state New York. And he said, shoot me the azimuth. So I plot my brother. I give him the azimuth. He's plotting there, and then the artillery's plotting there. The 3 plots you got right on the nose, that tank disappeared, just as it was about to hit my nose. So that was a narrow escape that day.
But those 8 days that you spent trying to get back to your unit, what were those 8 days like? The only food you had was what that lady had given you, I'm assuming?
Well, Sophie took it. That was her name, Sophie.
Sophie, okay.
She took me to get to my lines. That took a day or so. Then I got to my line.
But what did you eat in those days?
Oh,
After you left her?
I found a dead GI, and he had under his arm a number 10 can of corned beef hash. See, they had 10 in one boxes. And you give them to the tankers, and it would feed 10 men. The bacon in that was superb, but they would throw out the wafers. They didn't like that. They'd throw out the corned beef hash, and this was riddled with shrapnel. I took my bayonet, opened it up, and for a few days I ate this corned beef hash, melted it in my mouth, spit out the shrapnel, and I finally consumed that whole can. Oh my, I remember that.
So you had to scavenge for food and whatnot. How did you end up behind enemy lines to begin with?
Another guy and I were scouting something. They sent out scouts, you know, and I think he and I were on a scouting mission, coming back, and the division had moved somewhere, a regiment had moved. We couldn't find the blooming guys, and they didn't care about us. They had rec patrols, R&R patrols. They had them in jeeps, they had them single, because they didn't want to get trapped, you know. And we were one of those R&R patrols, this other guy and I. And I got separated from him, so I'm all by myself, that's all. And I never got back because we got to this little river. Well, it wasn't little when it started, it was, I could jump over it. By the time I got there, it was too wide to jump, so I got my feet wet on that.
Murray, at the beginning of the Battle of the Bulge, weren't you coming up from, you had gone back to get hot chow, and you were coming back, and that's when the Battle of the Bulge started? Were you walking back with another guy? It's up to your machine guns?
You saw the tanks, remember?
You saw the tanks, and you saw the guys carrying the satchel charges, and you thought they were the feeding company bringing hot food, and they were actually the Germans carrying the charges.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Because it was before dawn, right?
Yeah. See, we had,
So tell them
if
about
we
that.
were in the stable position at the front, our cooks would bring up vacuum cans of cocoa or chocolate, or coffee, and that morning was French toast. I remember that. And I was waiting for that. Well, the Germans got there. They took our kitchens, and we had our heavy mortars were ringing the top. Well, they just turned those tubes around, and they caught 350 Germans. They just massacred them, and they destroyed our kitchens. So we had no kitchens, and they destroyed our French toast too.
Okay, but tell them about when you were walking back and you saw the guys with the satchels, with the charges. Remember you saw them, and then that was when you're heading back to your machine gun section, right?
December 16th, 1944.
Satchels,
Think about it,
Where
Bruce.
you saw,
satchel bombs.
yeah, you saw the guys carrying them, and
I remember those satchel bombs. They would implode. You know how they implode? You set the timer, you put them against a wall, bam. They go one direction, just tear the hell out of it. And they were carrying satchel bombs, I know that. Who was that?
that were the Germans.
Carrying satchel bombs, yeah.
And then when you got, did you ever make it to your machine guns, or had they already been killed?
Well, I didn't make it, but the reserve company did. And one guy was shot through the eye. I'm glad I didn't make it.
But remember you went back to tell your commanding officer that you saw the Nazis approaching, and he told you you must be mistaken, you must have dreamt it. We have no intelligence, the Nazis are here. You were the first to see the Nazis approaching on the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, yeah. We had plenty of warning to that. One woman from Belgium came across and told us, and that night, I remember, I had binoculars, and I said to the captain, you know, something's funny has happened. There's no sound. And then all of a sudden, a lot of noise, just plain old noise. They had run up noisemakers, loudspeakers, and searchlights to blind us. I said, Captain, I got to go see what's going on. Well, I said, you better double guard. Something's happened. I got away from the side, put on my back, and the tankers are coming up. Lots of German tanks. Came back and told him, "Oh, Sergeant, we have no reports of enemy action." Stupid guy. I said, "I'm bringing you a report." He didn't believe me. Well, I said, if I were you, I'd double the guard. You get all the men awake. He didn't do it. They got slobbered.
You got caught off guard.
Sure he did. I warned him. And this woman came across and warned him.
How about after you got back to the Allied lines, and they made you part of the rear guard, right? Weren't you assigned to were firing on the tanks with your rifle?
Well, I was up on a ridge,
Right. And they
because
had-
I would never fire if I were that close.
Right, but that, what, didn't, there wasn't there, weren't you there when there was a battle between that anti-aircraft gun and the tank?
I don't remember that. I remember hitting the major in the knee, but I didn't know I did it until later on, 50 years later I found
Remember
it.
somebody ran when you were being fired upon, and you thought he was a coward, and later on you found out he went to get the anti-aircraft gun?
He pulled the tarp off the anti-aircraft gun and it fired and got one of the tanks, and then the tank fired and got it.
What do you mean?
And then the tank fired and killed part of the crew, and then the anti-aircraft fired and hit the second tank, and then the third tank ran out of gas, and that's when you shot the tank commander in the snowstorm.
The German.
Well, you know, you forget a lot of this stuff.
Well,
Alright.
think about it.
Can you remember that? How that occurred?
I remember shooting the major in the knee. I didn't know he was doing it because years later I found out. But I shot, I was in a safe spot. I was in a ridge and here was the front. So nobody could get me, so it was pretty safe to take a chance.
So how many tanks were approaching? You remember?
How about it? Maybe 3 or 4. And then they turned around, and that night they came behind me, so I had to get out again.
Well, it says here that you were in a group of 40 men
I think so.
to defend those tanks.
I don't remember. You know, you lose. You don't. I don't even remember what I had for breakfast today. I can't remember.
Don't worry about that.
That's all right. I'm just reading what it says here. Maybe it'll spark some memory, but it says that you were in a group of 40 men to stop the German tank column, which you did. It said, but only 3 of you ended up surviving.
Well, I didn't see him get killed, but I know we got dispersed. Thank God I didn't see him get killed.
And I understand that you fell asleep in a slit trench
Well, I
at
was.
one point.
I'm used to
Slept
8
through a
hours.
battle?
Yes.
You
I
slept through
remember
an entire
that.
Battle? You remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
Can you tell me about how that all happened?
I was at the end of the line. The left, you look at the front, and I was at the rear end of the line. And I was tired. I didn't need 8 hours sleep. I just fell asleep. And I woke up kind of refreshed. And you think they're going to attack? Hell, where you been? You're going to be attacked. The 3rd Reserve Battalion came and rescued us. Well, I must have slept through the blooming thing. I remember that. I can't, I need sleep. That's the problem I had in the Army. When we go marching, we never got much. And if I got an inner rank, I could sleep walking because, the guy was, if I were the outer, I'd fall off. I always tried to get inner rank. I could go to sleep when I got it. Where we're going, I came up, I was refreshed. I could sleep walking, as long as there were a guy on each side. My dad never got enough sleep in the Army either. Because when we go out, he loved to travel in his car. He'd stop every 20 minutes and take a 5-minute nap. He could never go very far without taking a nap. Like Napoleon. Napoleon never slept the whole night. He took little naps.
Well, I'm sure it'd be pretty difficult. I understand that you ended up in Life magazine. Photo of you.
Yeah. There was a quarter page above Marshall, I think. And where was in there? Why did they take it?
November of 44.
Yeah.
Do you remember where that photo was taken?
No, I don't, and I don't know. My brother Phil happened to see it in the magazine.
Kurt Gun Forest.
He said, "That's my brother."
Yeah, it was the Hurcon Forest. Did you hear what she said? The Hurcon Forest.
The Hurtgen Forest, yeah. Well, the Hurtgen Forest is in the valley of the Malmedy, which is a beautiful spot today. But at that time, it was full of snow and cold.
So when did you find out that you were featured in Life magazine?
And crap.
No, way got home.
Oh, it's mom? Your mom? Your mom.
Your mother saw it on the cover of the
Not the cover.
Not the cover inside. No, the one Ken Kraft was in a book.
That's many years later.
Oh, is it?
It was in a volume of World War II, the third volume, thin volumes about World War II. And this volume was about the Battle of the Bulge. And we were having a luncheon I was going to El Camino Real at that time as a teacher after the war. And Ken Kraft comes in, come on, Shapiro, tell you how you won World War II. And he flops it open, and there I am inside. Well, I am, Ken. I about fell through the floor.
In that picture, you have two people you knew, Pee-wee and Papa. Papa something, you called him?
Pee-wee.
Pee-wee and...
Pee-wee was one of my gunners. Papa Watson was an assistant ammo carrier, yeah. He was 31, and that's way too old to be in the infantry. You can hardly make it. Yeah, that's me.
That's the picture, yeah?
Yeah.
So I see a big smile on your face there.
When somebody's taking a picture, I don't know. Somebody's taking your picture, you smile automatically. But you know it was cold. That's ice on my... And certainly I know in the West, because it's November. Because by December, we threw away our gas mask.
I would imagine you didn't have much to smile about.
Well, when somebody takes a picture, you can always smile.
I notice there's no hole in your helmet here either.
That's before, I guess. But you see I don't know how he stood it, because years later, we're in Washington, D.C., and we're at a memorial for World War II. We get out on the cold. We couldn't stand the cold. We had to go back in. Why, God. I guess I got inured to it.
Did you suffer any frostbite?
I sure did. I didn't feel my big toe in my left foot until about, a year later. When I got fortunately I would take off my socks and rub my feet, lay my feet. Because most guys lost their toes or their feet. But I just itched so badly, I took it off and rubbed them frantically. And I always had a dry pair of socks, a dirty pair on my back. I put on a dry pair of socks. Nobody else took that.
I think it was Mike.
I did.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Remember one time I was being recorded in some kid program, kept falling off because I was waving in my hands. I'd keep coming up and putting it on me.
So let me ask you, did you experience any anti-Semitism?
You bet I did.
Can you tell me about that?
Well, my company, which was, by the way, Pennsylvania National Guard, well, the middle of Pennsylvania is full of anti-Semites. It's also full of good food, too, you know. And so,
We clearly know.
guy is anti-Semite, I put him, go to the other platoon. Then I got to be company commander. I had one platoon of anti-Semites and one good guys. But they didn't dare, when I was a sergeant, a first sergeant then, but acting, I had stripes, so they tried to pull it. Someone did. We took over when we went into occupation. We did the same thing the Germans did. We went into this German town. Said, you own this, huh? You got till 3 o'clock to get everything out you want. We're taking the house over. They got out fast. So then I went up there. I got this big poster bed, you know, beautiful bed with a couple of mattresses on it. And I went to sleep, and I had my rifle by the bed. It was loaded. Some guy from my outfit came in and turned that bed over. I got up and he slugged me. I got my rifle and I got out too fast. I killed him. So I reported it to the captain. He said, well, it's going to be his word again. Don't worry, I'll handle it. I put him on KP every morning for a month. Why did he complain to the captain? Captain, well, he's complaining. Oh, okay, take him off of it. I got my screws on him.
Louder, Murray,
Huh?
louder.
It's okay. The microphone.
He has a mic.
Thank you.
You'd think there wasn't any. Boy, there was plenty of it. You know, there was less anti-Semitism in some German outfits than there was in mine. When we went in to Germany proper and we went into occupation, they had this place where you get a bath, huge bathtubs. And I had this German orderly fill my bathtub with hot water, give me soap, rub my back, felt good. Not the bath so much, getting this German to do all this. And they did it willingly, because they got paid a little money, you know.
And did you guys ever encounter any of the concentration camps that they had going on?
trying to think about that. I don't remember it. It may have been the movies. I can't remember something in from my mind.
Were you aware that
Oh, yes.
what they were doing to the Jewish community?
Oh, yeah. We the newsreels were bringing it out. Eisenhower personally said, "You're going to show this to the public." He personally visited one. He could have said that he had the whole village come in, the Germans, and look at it, so they know what it was.
You might want to talk about his grandfather before he went to the war. He wore his uniform to a Jewish service, Torah, where he carried the Torah around. And at that time, Jews didn't wear uniforms. What did your grandfather tell you?
Jews, since 300 AD until 1948, you were taught to run from a fight. Don't get in a fight, because nobody's going to protect you if you do. So we were trained to run from a fight. My stepdad put a stop to that, because he wasn't raised in the family. But, that's the only way you can save yourself. Come in one day, my mother is about to paddle my oldest brother, and he grabs her hand. "What are you doing?" "Well, he got in a fight." "Well, what kind of a fight?" So he found out he was furious. So he grabbed his arm, took him up to Miss Hale, who was the principal, little old lady. I think she must have been 80-something. "You better strike my son down." He was reinstated right away.
Well, what did your grandfather say about going off to fight the Nazis?
Well, you weren't to wear a uniform. And on Friday nights, he was in temple praying. Well, this happened to be on a hot night, so the doors to the temple were all open. And I was in uniform, and you never wore, even a nurse didn't wear a uniform. Well, he changed all that, because the Hakafot, the middle of the service, you take all the Torah scrolls, and you parade them around the temple. You're in order to hold it. And he sees me, and he gives me one of those Torah scrolls. I didn't know what was at the time. And he has me parade around there, which means, symbolize, we're no longer going to be pacifists, because I'm in uniform, and that's okay. That's what it meant. But I didn't know at the time.
Now tell me about Christmas 1944.
This one,
I understand you woke up Christmas morning and you noticed the trees.
there's tinsel everywhere. And who would get up in the middle of the night and put tinsel? I couldn't figure it out. Years later, I found out they would drop these bales to, the clan. I was complete mystery to me. All the fir trees were decorated with tinsel, and it was just before Christmas, which was symbolic. We used to do that at home. We weren't practicing Christians. My stepdad liked the tree, and we decorated, and that was it. He wouldn't have it, but my mother had it. He's very kosher.
And the purpose of the tinsel was to
Tell them why they used the tinsel.
what was its purpose?
Oh, that was to blind our radar. It was very effective. They come out with these big cranes, and they cut them open now, and they come, and it would blind our radar, and blind everything. And then they bomb, and then they leave. We did the same thing.
So that's what that was on the trees.
Yeah.
Nobody got up and decorated the night.
No, I didn't know that. But I put it down. Some dope, the military expert of the LA Times, or Examiner, who was syndicated all over the country, said, "That's ridiculous." Well, about 16 people wrote in that next day saying, "I was in the Signal Corps, he's right. I was in the Army, he's right." Everybody confirmed what I said. He never answered.
How difficult was it being away from your family during the holidays?
Oh, it was no problem.
No?
The Israelis, it's a big problem. So they're always stationed near the home. Saves them money too. They go home for lunch. But we're not, ours was, you move, if you live on the West Coast, you move to the East Coast. Midwest, move west.
But for you, was it difficult being away from your family?
No, not
It
at
didn't
all.
bother you at all?
I don't know.
What about the salami you used to get at the front line?
Oh, I had a girlfriend whose father sent us a kosher salami wax. But that's the time they asked me to come back to headquarters. I knew that salami was there. They would send up to the front. "Shapiro, you captain wants you back here." I knew I had this wax salami. If I lucky get half of it back to my... Ah, well, the captain at his headquarters had a piece. Well, finally, well,
You
I-
mentioned earlier you received 2 Bronze Stars. Can you tell me what you received those for?
the first one, everybody got it that survived the Battle of the Bulge. If you survived that battle, you deserved a star. The second one was for individual action. I forgot what I did. What did I do?
You helped your lieutenant had to go back to headquarters to get help with all the other men and said, "Do you think you can hold off that tank with your rifle?" And you did.
Yeah.
I'm
I
going
know.
to read what it says here, if that's all right. It says, Sergeant Shapiro, after becoming encircled by enemy forces during the powerful Ardennes offensive, calmly organized his 6 men into an efficient combat unit and safely led them to the battalion command post. While he and his men fought a delaying action, permitting the command post to move to better positions, Sergeant Shapiro advanced under intense enemy artillery and small arms fire and completely neutralized a German tank by killing or seriously wounding 10 occupants with his rifle.
Highly exaggerated. I know who wrote that.
You did.
I did not. A friend of mine wrote it.
His lieutenant wrote it.
His lieutenant. Well, your lieutenant's not gonna lie.
It continues to say, after repelling a vicious enemy attack, he infiltrated the enemy lines again and successfully led his men safely to rejoin units of his organization.
Well, but it's kind of exaggerated a little bit.
Well, tell me your version of it.
Well, let's see. I didn't calmly do it for the beginning. I wasn't calmly at all. Secondly, all I was worried about was to delay them enough so that they didn't get to Antwerp, because if they got there, it would have prolonged the war at least another year. So that's all I want to do, slow them down. I know it doesn't stop them. So that's what we're trying to do, slow them down. And we did that. But the problem was, the unit to our left collapsed. That was the 75th Division that I trained with. Nobody had combat experience in the general. The whole division collapsed, so we had to they were next to Montgomery's 8th Army. That means we had, instead of covering 5 miles in front, 3 miles in front, we covered 5 miles in front. So that was rough.
You say this is a bit exaggerated.
Yeah. I wasn't calm, I'll tell you that. Calm. That's ridiculous. I wasn't. I know who wrote that too. There was a guy at headquarters. He was head of this editor-in-chief of this pulp magazine. Smith and Wesson, all these pulp magazines. He's the editor-in-chief of it. Boy, could he sling the bow.
So were there any other experiences during the Battle of the Bulge that we haven't talked about that you can remember?
Well, I remember when I was in England, I had some nice experiments.
Okay, he's talking about the Battle of the Bulge.
Just the Battle of the Bulge.
Right now, yeah.
Let me see. I didn't know I was in the Battle of the Bulge, to tell you the truth. I thought we were just in a battle. The thing that scared the hell out of me is the Germans deliberately set the trees on fire, you know, and I thought we were going to get burned up. Oh, what else?
That's all right. So after the battle had ended, and as the months progressed, the weather starts warming up. What were you doing in those following months leading up to the end of the war?
Well, we were trying to warm up to begin with. What were you doing?
They sent
Oh.
you to Paris to teach.
Remember you went to Paris?
Well, first of all, the stores opened up, but the only one who could go to the village were the officers. And the officers,
It's this one.
where's my boot?
Your boot?
Yeah.
It's behind you.
The officers went and got their combat boots made, you know, sewed on. And I'd love to have that too. So he comes back and he's got the wrong size. So what's your size? I said 9.5B. They fitted perfectly. He said, well, here, you can have it. you can pay me payday for what it was. Payday comes, well, here I am, sir, I'll pay you. What is it? A gift to me. So he kept my gift. But we didn't have anything that would hold our leggings, except those, first they had these wrappings and then they had canvas. This was perfect for it. So I was very glad to get it.
So that's an aftermarket addition to your boot there.
What,
Your boot.
That top part, that top leather part, that's an aftermarket addition.
Oh,
to the
yes.
boot. Not everybody has that.
No, nobody had it, but the officers, some officer got that idea. He went into town, he had the cowboy put it on. And everybody, all the officers were crazy about it. Well, I remember an incident. I got put on a Jeep patrol after the war to be sure that no officers were in these whorehouses. Well, I wasn't going to arrest an officer, so we do the Jeep and I honked the horn until everybody got out the window. Then I went in. These women were there giggling. They knew what I was there, so I came out. Then the officers went back in because we didn't dare do it. We'd lose our stripes. The officers would. Anybody who got venereal disease got reduced to a private. If you were a private, you got sent to Leavenworth. Officers, they didn't get it that badly. So what happened was the Army venereal disease rate went up 1,000%. Because they were afraid to report to the battalion aid stations. Well, the Army got very worried about that, so they reversed it. And to be sure, all the billboards around there had big signs. You no longer have to go to the aid stations. The Army has been reversed. Well, the civilians didn't know what the hell the billboards were about, but we did.
So you got sent back to Paris eventually to do
Twice.
Okay.
The first time writing Army citations. Every award you got, somebody had to send out write it. So they sent out anybody officer who had been to college, please come to Paris. No officer had been to college in our battalion except the colonel. First three graders who'd been to college, well, I was at the bottom. Staff sergeant, first sergeant, and master sergeant. So I'm bottom of the first three grade. And you've been to Paris, if you had journalism experience, I was on the school paper, so I went to Paris. The second time they sent us to Paris was
Occupation.
to write articles, and the first time was
No, when you were in occupation, you had to teach the troops.
Occupation to teach the troops.
oh yes, that's right. They wanted teachers. Well, I could taught, so I went to teach. That was great.
So that was after the war had ended.
After the war ended, well, let's see. What did we do after the war? I don't remember.
Where were you when the war ended?
Oh, where was I? Oh, I don't remember. Where was I?
Remember you said well, I guess some of the war was still going on, but he was sent to Paris to keep the troops from doing what they did in World War I, which was getting drunk and fraternize.
Oh no, it was to go to Paris to learn about the Negro soldier. Stupid. You know, we had a lot of blacks coming in and they didn't know how to handle them. Well, you treat them a little fairness, that's how you do it, but nobody can figure that out. But how to treat the black soldier. So I went there and I saw this stupid, they had these old gray-haired professors with an army cap that didn't fit, stood on the back of the head, and they're lecturing us how to treat the black soldier. So stupid, I still think of it with nausea. How can they be so stupid?
There's a whole training class on that?
Yeah, terrible.
What about the shoes that they sent us back?
Those were, yeah, you sent it to your mom. But you taught, though, the troops, American troops, in Paris when we were still mopping up to keep them out of trouble. What did you teach them?
I think the Russians had joined us. Hitler invaded Russia.
No, what did you teach the American troops?
About Russia.
Oh, about Russia, okay.
Yeah, that was great. I escaped Monday morning inspection. I got off early, and I go to the library and take notes. I remember that now, yeah. And it's wonderful. I got to eat the officers' mess. God, they want steaks every meal, lamb chops, pork chops, whatever you wanted.
You sent these to Grandma was this after the war?
during the war.
During the war, these were from Belgium. He sent
And I got that there. I thought, gee, this would be, it wasn't that shiny. They're actually used.
Well, those are the outside shoes. Yeah.
The farmers use those. They put their shoes in it and get out in the muck, you know, and then they come back and they put their shoes back on. Smart.
So those are overshoes.
Yeah.
They go
Well,
over.
not necessarily. Sometimes they just use it.
Well. Yeah, they're overshoot.
Anyhow, I remember how they used to irrigate the crops. So they had these big tankers with nozzles that fitted the rows, in between the rows. And they turn on they put all the urine in there, turn on, and they go between the rows with this urine. Well, it's got a lot of nitrogen in it, but it's piss. And that's how you eat those. People didn't mind it. I remember Sergeant Barron's telling us when he was on China duty, they'd come along and pick up the turds from the Americans because it was rich, and they used it in their fertilizer. Sergeant Barron's was sergeant assigned to the Lincoln ROTC unit.
I see you got a few souvenirs here, and specifically this one.
Well, this was one the guy from Montana did for me.
Yeah.
This was a beautiful officer's sword, and it had a nice whatchamajigger on it. And I put it back in it kept sticking me in my butt. And I said, oh God, I guess I'll have to get rid of it. So this sergeant was hey, don't do that, I'll fix it for you. So I fixed it to fit
Where
this.
did you get that knife from? Didn't you take it off of a body?
What, the knife?
Oh, that was this one?
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
saber.
that's this one.
Oh, that, yeah. That's my regular dish you put on top of your rifle. Of course, nobody did, but this goes on your rifle. You know, you have bayonet drill. Nobody's going to use a bayonet if you got a bullet. So, it's useless.
And this one, you could show them how you use that.
This shows you how the Germans prepared for the war. This was made in 1918 after the armistice. Germans started to prepare for World War II then. This is a complete rifle plate kit. You don't have to put your head up, you know, or anything. Here's your patches. Patches, oil can.
Yeah. String.
If you had to clean it for days, a brassy. This you put into your rifle barrel. See? And then you go to the end of it. You attach this to it, like this. And you run it down your rifle and you clean it out without having to use a rod. Germans thought of everything. Here's your oil can, and you have, if you have a brush after you do that, all German.
Where did you acquire that?
I got it after a German dead tanker. It fell out of his pocket as I was running along, and Hurtgen Forest was ablaze. It fell out of his pocket, and I picked it right up off the ground. And boy, it would sure come in handy. I used it.
Let's go about this one again.
Okay. I'll put it back, Dad. I'll put it back.
And the other side is
Here's
patches
the-
and oil. Oh, this also came out of a German. His tanker was, his name was Braun. Look at this. Put it in here. You can land on where it hurts you. You got a fork and a spoon. What else do you need? Soft aluminum. You know how much aluminum costs in those days? You need electricity to make aluminum. And until we had the Cooley dams, we didn't have much. The Germans did. Anyhow, this comes out. You got a fork and spoon. Wonderful.
You said this was an officer's saber.
Yes.
A German officer?
Yeah.
And how did you come
Oh,
to acquire it?
he was dead, and I picked it up. I didn't kill him, but it was beautiful. long saber, and it had a beautiful guard.
And you had somebody chop it down for you.
Yeah, a guy from Montana. Kept sticking me in the back. I'll take care of it for you, Sergeant. Okay, he did. Put it right in there.
So when did you return to the States?
Oof, boy, when do we come back?
I have it on paper.
I remember we went on the Mauritania to Europe, and we came back through Boston. That's right. We came back on a ship through Boston Harbor, and all the ships had these water ships, red, white, and blue water coming out of them. Welcome home, job well done. You so felt so good. And then we got there, and all of a sudden they tell us to get on these ships, and we're going clear up to Canada. We're going to send us to the Pacific. Those dirty sons of a gun. Well, take it easy, fellas. You're just going down. All the truck lines to the center are full. So we went, finally came down. I thought for sure we were going to the Pacific.
When you got mustered out, when you ended your service.
Oh, I know. I wanted to be mustered out in the middle of the country because I wanted to take my time coming home. So I asked to be discharged in Mississippi, yeah.
How'd you get home from Mississippi?
I went on Greyhound buses, staying at YWCA's, YH. There's only one Hebrew, you know, and that was, I think, in Mississippi, of all places.
And why did you take your rifle with you?
Oh, we were told to take everything with us. They didn't know what to do with it. They didn't want to leave it there. Everybody took all your stuff, combat gear home.
That's why he has it.
And I had it, I was on the valley bus. I couldn't sit down. Had the big rule on my back. Nobody came up thanking me for your service. They were just scared of me.
Nobody came to pick you up.
No, I came back on the valley bus.
I said nobody came
And
to
then,
pick
Well, they didn't know I was home.
when did you give your rifle up?
When did I take my...
When
Where
did
did
you
you get
give your rifle?
Yeah,
Where did you leave it?
If you came on the bus, where was your rifle?
You gave it
I
up.
came it with me.
No, you said you gave your rifle up. That's why you.
Eventually.
Well, when I came back,
Right.
we came back, we're supposed to come back with our equipment.
Did you go to Fort MacArthur or where'd you go?
I think Fort MacArthur, yeah.
How'd you get there?
Well, we got on the bus.
Always on the bus. Nobody took you.
But we did get meal allowances. We got tickets. We could go anywhere and have a meal.
So you came to your mother first.
Yeah. She was living on Chardwood then, just inside of L.A.
Did you make a long distance call and say, Mom, I'm coming home?
Yep. I did that, and I reversed the charges, which cost a fortune. I didn't know that.
Oh.
How did it feel to see your mom again after you've been?
Oh, it was nice. But my mom was always for herself first, anyhow. She glad to see me, but,
But your brothers, you were excited.
oh yeah, my brother, Phil,
Phil's my age. He's 89.
and he hugged me, you know, they were, you know, my brother's very smart. You know, I don't know to this day how smart he is.
You told them.
Some of this stuff is still secret.
So let me ask you, when people call you a hero, how do you respond to that?
Ah, baloney. The heroes are the ones that did come back, I'll tell you that. Those are the heroes. I just intend on coming back, so I'm no hero. I just did my job. I never did anything like Gene Autry. That was the real hero.
Audie Murphy?
Yeah. He got in that tank and started, I wouldn't get in a German tank and start firing. Hell, I was lucky to get out. If I could fire my gun and kill Germans safely, I did it. They can fire back? No thanks. So that's no hero.
Did you reach home and
So-
sitting to the German in the South?
I don't know. I was down on.
So I understand that you went back to Europe for the 50th anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah, that was something.
And I understand you met a few people
traveled with a few people too.
Yeah, the moron.
Well, what's his name wrote the book? He probably knows about his book.
I'm talking about the guide, such an asshole. They didn't have my ticket. You know, he had it, and he was just playing well with it. I was worried about it. So he kept he was supposed to guide us.
But
But
you met the major that you shot.
Yeah, you met the guy that came out of the tank, you shot his knee.
Yeah, I
He
remember.
came to shake your hand and you wouldn't shake his hand, remember?
yeah, he's the German, that's right.
We did, remember I went.
Corporal Stump.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Corporal Stump.
We haven't, yeah, I wanted to get it on video.
Tell him about it.
Well, 50 years later, this guy says, we're going to be in this Belgium bridge on Saturday, whatever it was, and we were planning to go there. Fine, we'll meet you there. So here, Merci said, I'll translate for you. This guy knew no English. He learned English so he could translate. Brilliant guy. And so we go there. There's this German, and he wanted to shake hands. I don't want to shake hands. I wasn't yet. Go ahead, shake his hand. So I surely shook his hand. Merci said so. So I wouldn't have done it. Anyhow, what really riled that guy, he said, well, we lost 1 yard. I'm going down to the Pacific. I'll fight in another. Hell, if he hadn't won that war, I would be there talking to him. Didn't realize that.
Did you know who he was?
Sure he knew who I was.
He
No.
told you,
No.
tell him, he told you you shot him in the knee. The German.
He's the one that gave you the information.
I shot him in the knee, huh?
You don't remember telling us that. The one that got out of the tank,
The major.
Oh, he's the guy.
yes.
I didn't know at the time I did, but he had it in his book with pictures and everything. So I guess I did.
But when you met him 50 years later, or,
Yep.
did you know that you were gonna encounter him again?
So,
So that was kind of
well, he said we'd meet it at the bridge. I didn't know he had this book of souvenirs and everything. Hey, why not? Let's go see him. So we did. We met him at the bridge, and
I was scared.
I'll tell you where the bridge was. It was the that famous bridge, the
Yeah.
Oh.
You took me across.
Ramagen.
Yeah.
Boy, crossing that bridge was scary because
Yeah.
the Germans had it all mined. The guy and it was had to get ordered to blow it, and the fuses didn't work. The guy got killed by Hitler, but we got across, and then the thing collapsed. By that time, we had floating bridges all the way across the Rhine.
But that encounter between you and what would have been your enemy 50 years later, it wasn't a pleasant exchange.
Not for me, it wasn't. His name was Hans.
I was scared for Murray to go. Shake hands with him.
Yeah. Well, why should I? You know, if they had carried out their plan, I wouldn't be here. Neither would any of you.
One other thing I'd like to ask you is if you had any advice for my generation or future generations, what could you offer?
Well, be prepared for war. That's the best way to have peace. That's what George Washington said, and it's true. Secondly, love this country. It's the best country in the world. It's the only country where the law protects everybody. My dad became a lawyer because of that, I think. He was absolutely in awe of American law. In Lithuania, if you were a Jew, hell, the law didn't protect you at all. So when he got here, he couldn't believe it. You're a Jew, you got protected too. So that's another thing. And the third thing is, enjoy life. You don't know how long it's going to be. Find a nice woman, get a good job, and that's all you need. And I got both.
Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I don't think of anything else.
Anything else?
Well, he was a good teacher of history all those years because of his experience.
He was a teacher at LA City, LA County, and he
Oh,
went up
teacher
to
of the
LA, the state of California.
Teacher of the year. Yeah, that.
He didn't have the textbook, he taught out of knowledge.
You taught history.
That was his.
I I taught history, and there are pictures of me when we came to this time in the, in the school. I'd go into the restroom, dress in my uniform, have the rifle and band come in, and I'd go in there and lecture on it. Well, one day the guys caught on, and I coming out, they're lying against the wall in perfect position, saluting me. I'm going to collapse over, laughing so much.
Got 50 years.
Because of his military experience.
I love being a teacher. I could have gone into law. In fact, I could have had any. I could have gone into law. It was my second choice, but I love teaching. I got my first chance to teach it when I was 16 years old. I loved it. I was going to do anything else the rest of my life. Major, later became full colonel, my ROTC unit. The ROTC got too big, so he said, well, I'm going to split it in. So on Fridays we had what we called theory class. You know, we'd stay inside, we wouldn't march. And he said, you're going to split the class. You teach them in one room, I'll teach them in the other. Major Dunsworth, yeah. Later became a full colonel. So what are you going to teach them? Well, I'll teach them how the Army has changed. And the kids were very interested. I said, God, this is my profession. I never had such power. So I became a teacher.
The USAID is where we went. He was chosen how many we tried. And we went to Africa. Should have been 4 years.
Thank God.
The Afghan war began, and they sent us.
But he was the last white person to leave because of his military experience. He said, you stay.
Well, you loved it there.
I like it.
Not a good place. I got malaria.
The only thing was they didn't.
But you got to have many a book reports on it.
Yes, I did.
I want to thank you very much.
Oh, quite welcome. Thank
for your
you.
service, for sitting
And
down.
you're going to
with
send
me.
me something, huh?
Absolutely.
That's going to be wonderful. You do such a great job.